I'll let you know when it's live.
Do you want me to translate what you say, or do you want to
No,
call on me?
just follow my lead.
Okay.
I'll let you know when it's live.
Do you want me to translate what you say, or do you want to
No,
call on me?
just follow my lead. Live. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Back to School Parent Forum. And I appreciate everybody being here. And I apologize for the little mishap in the beginning there when I was letting people know we were live, and we have a little bit of a delay here. So we're never quite sure when we actually go live. It's about a 15-second delay. So Kelly and Ronnie, thank you for letting us know you can hear us and that we are live. I appreciate it. Again, welcome tonight. First off, I want to say we have Bill Hutchinson with us here tonight. Bill is our family liaison and works with our Spanish speaking and other students that are learning English. And he's going to be doing some translation tonight. And then we also have June Doomers, who is the assistant principal at Shelton High School that's in charge of our academic programs and all things coming back to school. So I want to just say that I'm going to have Bill give some instructions. If we have any families out there, any parents, guardians, students that need information in Spanish, I'm going to ask Bill to give a message in Spanish about putting their questions in the chat box. So Bill, if you would let our families know if we have anybody out there that needs some translation on and has questions that they need answered in Spanish, if you would have them put their question in the chat box.
Okay. Buenas tardes and bienvenido esta noche al Family Forum. Señor Kipper, quien es el director, va a conducir la reunión. Y si usted está en casa y a lo mejor tendría una pregunta, si nos hace el favor de escribirlo en la chat, entonces podemos leerlo y preguntarle a señor Kipper, entonces él lo va a contestar y yo lo voy a traducir en español. Entonces, por favor, si tengo una pregunta, solamente tiene que ponerlo en el chat. Gracias. Go ahead.
Thank you, Bill. First off, I want to just start by saying a couple of things. Our intention is tonight to provide information on coming back to school for our families and our students, and to make sure everybody is clear and understands what we're trying to do and why we're doing the things we're doing. And I will tell you that the Shelton School District, as well as Shelton High School, and all of the staff in the Shelton School District and at Shelton High School are committed to keeping Shelton High School and all of our schools open. We want nothing more, or all we want is to get our kids back in school and get them back here full time, 5 days a week, in person. There are some stipulations, though, that the governor and the state superintendent and health departments have put on us in order to do that. And I hope everybody understands why we are doing what we're doing. And tonight is the opportunity for people to ask questions to make sure that they understand what we're going to discuss tonight and why we're doing it. But I will tell you the only reason that we're putting any protocols in place is so that our students can come back to school. The Shelton School District is committed to keeping schools open, and we are going to do anything and everything we can to make that happen. And I can't tell you how excited I am, how excited our staff is to have our students back in school. We've had several staff meetings this week, and we continue to have staff trainings, and all I'm hearing from our staff is they can't wait to see their kids. They can't wait to see the students in their classes. And there's nothing but excitement to come back to school, but to make sure we're doing it in a safe manner. And we don't want anybody to be harmed. We don't want anybody to get sick. And like I said earlier, we are willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that we keep our schools open. So I hope that we're all on the same page with that, and we're all working towards the same goal, and that's to get our kids in school and keep them in school. So with that, we have some protocols that we've put in place to make sure that, one is we're meeting state guidelines and health department guidelines, and two is that our kids can come back. One is that whenever a student or a staff member or an adult is inside of a building, they will need to wear a mask. So that's in classrooms, in offices, inside the mini dome, inside the cafeteria, except when they're eating. When they are outside, so when they're traveling, when they're traveling from one building to another building, and they're outside, they are not required to wear a mask. We strongly recommend that everyone continues to wear a mask, but they are not required to wear a mask. So there will be times in the day, and one of the great things about high school is that kids change classes every 55 to 60 minutes. And so there will be times naturally built into our schedule where students will get, I guess what you could call a mask break. So they wouldn't necessarily be wearing a mask for 6.5 or 7 straight hours. Also, teachers have been given the autonomy and authority to, if a student needs a mask break during class, or their class needs a mask break, the teachers are given the ability to take a mask break during class for 5 minutes or whatever it takes, and then get back to work and get back to what they were doing. So our goal is certainly not to keep students in masks for the entire time they're at school, but we are asking students to be conscious and be aware of those around them, and take precautions to not willfully, put anybody in harm's way. The other thing is that we're going to ask our families and our parents and guardians to make sure they keep their children home if they are ill, if they're not feeling well. We want to make sure that students that are at school are feeling good, they're feeling okay, they're not ill. And I know in the past we would like, hey, get out of bed and come to school, like rub some dirt on it, right? But we're not doing that anymore. Like we need to make sure that we're taking precautions, and students will not be penalized if they have to stay home because they're not feeling well. Our teachers are working diligently to implement what is called Canvas, which is a learning management system that it's a platform. Now, I'm going to use the term K-12, but please do not freak out about K-12. It is not K-12. It is so much better than K-12. But Canvas is designed to allow teachers and students to access curriculum, to communicate, to turn assignments in, whether they're at school or not. So we are working towards making it easier and more efficient for both our students and our staff to manage learning if a student has to stay home. Okay. So we are encouraging families and parents and guardians to please closely monitor how your children are feeling, and if there's any exposure to COVID, that you contact us immediately so that we can take precautions and make sure that we're keeping everybody as safe as possible. I recognize, and I see the comments in the chat box. I do recognize that a lot of people are nervous, and I don't downplay that at all. And different families have had different experiences with the virus than other families. And so if you have questions or concerns, please contact me. You can email me. The quickest way to get a response is email, because I carry my phone with me at all times. When I'm in front of my computer, I have my email open. And so the one thing I do okay, there's a lot of things I don't do necessarily okay, but one thing I do okay is get back to families and parents that email me or contact me. So I would encourage you to contact me at any time, and we can discuss what options are available. We can discuss your concerns, and I can answer any questions that you have. June is also able to answer any questions that you have and concerns. So I just would encourage families that if you are nervous and you're not sure maybe what your options are, that you contact us and we can have a conversation about it and figure it out together. You know, I just want all of our students to be successful. And so, and I also want to respect all of our families, and I hope, the one thing I do hope is I hope we respect each other. You know, I talked to the staff yesterday at our opening staff meeting and talked about how, you know, we can't do this as individuals. We have to do this as a family, as a group, as a collaborative working team. And I would include our families and our students and our community in that also. The only way that we're going to do this is if all of our families work together, we respect each other, we respect the decisions that families make, whether it's to send their kids back or not send their kids back, and that we're doing what's right for everybody. And so that's why I would encourage you to contact me. I do see one question in the chat box that I'd like to answer right now. And the question is there a hybrid option? There is not a hybrid option at this point. There is an online option through Choice Alternative School. We respect the decisions that families make. So there is an online option that families can choose, and that would be through the Choice High School. And I'm happy to give any information regarding that program and the contact who you would contact. But at this point, we don't have a hybrid option like we offered last year. Now, down the road in the future, that might be an option if we get to a certain point. But as of right now, it's either students come back in person or they choose to participate in the online program. So let me give some information. If there's any other questions regarding that, I see a lot of comments, and I appreciate your comments and I respect your comments. I'm not going to read every comment because you know everybody can read them there. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'm going to share. Let me share some information about if your student is coming back to Shelton High School in person. I want to share what that's going to look like the first day and the first week. So I'm going to share my screen with you here real quick. See if I can. That's not what I want to share. No, this doesn't seem to be working out real well for me. Let me see if I can explain it to you, and I'll try to see if I can pull that up here in a second. So first day, I apologize for this. I'm trying to share a screen and it doesn't seem to be working for me. And like a lot of people, I have been found out I am extremely technologically challenged during these times. So first day, students, well, first of all, students should be able to see their schedules tomorrow, at some point tomorrow during the day. Is that correct, June?
Sorry, I'm trying to help technically. Yes, they should be coming out. In fact, I believe they may have finished them today. So you should see them either today, but for sure you should see schedules for students out tomorrow.
Okay, so students will be able to see their schedules at some point tomorrow. On the first day of school, we're going to have an extended advisory period, the first period of the day. So students don't necessarily need to know where all their classes are at that point. They simply will need to know where their advisory class is located. And we will have that posted up around school. If they don't have access to Skyward to look at it ahead of time, we will post the students and where their advisory classes are at when they come to school on Monday morning. There will be an extended advisory period. And we realize that students have been out of school for quite a long time. And June gave me a tip here. Let me see if I can. Okay, June, you should be able to share right now, I think. Okay. All right. So here is the first day schedule. You'll notice that advisory is first thing in the morning and it's extended. It's about 2.5 hours. And we realize that with students being out of school for this length of time, that we are going to need to do some acclimation and getting kids back into the groove of coming to school and getting them accustomed to being here and being in class. So there's some activities that first advisory period in the morning before they go to their first period class at 10:20. This gets them the chance to get to know their advisory teacher, understand the purpose of advisory. We will also be going over the handbook, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, and highlighting some of the more important policies and rules and protocols that are in place. So that and then after the extended advisory, they will go to their 5 classes for that day. Now you'll see the classes are fairly short in length, about 30 minutes, with the exception of third period, which when you have 3 lunches, everything's got to be the same length. So those are a little bit longer. But the first day will be basically understanding the expectations in each of their classes, getting to know their teacher. The teacher will be sharing their syllabus with them. And so we understand that we're going to have to take some time and ease into this. So that is our plan the first week. But June, if you want to pull up the other schedule, the regular advisory schedule. So if you'll notice that June is highlighting the advisory schedule. So that advisory schedule is what we'll follow on Thursday and Friday of next week. So these are all on the district website and the school they're on our school website. So if you go to sheltonschools.org and then pull up the high school, you will see all the bell schedules that are on there, as well as other information like the handbook and everything pertinent to the start of school. So that is the bell schedule we'll be following on Thursday and Friday. And you'll notice that advisory is after second period on those 2 days. So first day, they just got to get here, and then we will have people out on campus to help them find their advisory class. And from that point, their advisory teacher will advise them on and then help them with their schedule if they have any questions. So thanks, June. If you could take that down, I appreciate it. Let me go back, and I know we had some questions in the chat box. Let me see if I can go back. And if I forget to answer something, or if I don't answer it the way that you intended to write it, then please email me, and I'll be happy to. I will be happy to get back to you or answer any questions that you have. So let me see if I can go back a little bit, and I'll try to. Okay, so there's the hybrid question. What are the ratios for class sizes? Is there social distancing of any type? Good question. So right now, the guidance from the health department is that we have 3-foot social distancing in a classroom, and that we try to maintain 6-foot social distancing in all other places. And the 3-foot guidelines, we will not have students sitting face to face. And so that's 3 feet from the center of a person's body to their left, to their right, in front of them, and behind them. And so most of our classes, that's a regular class. That would be anywhere from 30 to 31 kids in most of our classes. Some of our classes are smaller than that. And so those classrooms that are smaller, we've had to reduce the number of kids that are in those classes. But the class sizes won't look much different than they have before COVID. But we are making sure that we're following the 3-foot rule in the classroom. In the other spaces like our sub building, where we have lunch and library and those type of things, we will be working to maintain a 6-foot social distancing. And again, all students and staff and adults will have masks on whenever they're inside of a building. And for the most part, you will see staff wearing masks outside of the building for the most part also. And we would certainly encourage our students to do the same thing. Next question, are kids working on computers or do we need to buy supplies? They're not working on computers solely, no, not like last year where each kid had a Chromebook and that's all they worked on was a Chromebook for the most part. When we came back in hybrid, we were able to do some things in some of our classes, but for the most part, kids were still on Chromebooks. We are attempting to have this look as close to what we would call normal school as possible. We will monitor and not share a lot of supplies. And those things that we have to share will be wiped down and cleaned between classes and between uses by different students. But we will have Chromebooks available in classrooms for those activities that are appropriate. But they will not be solely working on Chromebooks like they did in remote and hybrid learning. Will students do the daily temperature check? No, the health department has removed that protocol. At this point, there is no health check-in. But we are, again, like I said earlier, we are encouraging our families to closely monitor their child's health and how they're feeling and conduct their own health check at home before sending the student to school. Buses are running this year. So if you need bus transportation, please contact June. How do families go about making sure that they are able to ride the bus?
They can contact transportation.
Okay. So, and I will send, let me do this. Let me send an email out. One thing you probably realize that we think it's really important that our students and our families monitor their email because that's one quick and efficient way that we can communicate with everybody. And when I do communicate with our families, I try to send out not only email on Skyward, but I also try to send out either an email or a text message on School Messenger. So you probably will receive an email through Skyward and either a text or an email through School Messenger also. But I will send an email out to all of our families on how to contact transportation and get set up for busing. There is a comment regarding what happened when somebody got COVID. I will tell you right now that I've had a few conversations with the Mason County Health Department when we've either had a staff member or a student in the past that reported either not feeling well or being exposed to COVID. Right now, what I'm being told by the Mason County Health Department is the number one symptom of the Delta variant is much similar to allergies. So runny nose, scratchy throat, the same symptoms that you may have when you have allergies are much similar to what the current virus is. So, I would just encourage everybody to please closely monitor everybody, not just your children, but everybody in the household with regards to the symptoms. Not related to this, but I'll answer that real quick. Yes, I have been signing work study applications for students. So if your child is going to be working during the school year, you can drop that off at school and you can pick it up here at school and fill it out and drop it off. And I'm happy to sign those as long as it doesn't interfere with the school day. and interfere with them going to class. So absolutely feel free to do that.
I'm not sure that was the question. I think the question was about the actual work study period, like where they leave school during that period.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so we do have students. I apologize, Kelly, for completely misinterpreting your question, if that's what I did. We do have a work study program where students take a class and then they are released to go to work and they get credit for going to work. They get school credit. Yes, we do have that still. So I would recommend you contact your child's counselor and they can walk you through that. That's a pretty easy change to make because it doesn't overload a class that's already got kids in it. You know, there can be lots of kids in work study program because they're all going to work. So that's simple to do. And that's an accommodation that in 9 times out of 10 we can actually make. So yes, if whichever answer fits, Kelly, I'm sorry about that. Thanks, June. Let me see here. Yeah, so there's a question about a freshman son may not know where to go. Just if there's going to be all kinds of people outside helping students and directing students that first day. So if they just head to the sub, in the area of the sub, which is the Student Union building, which is just to the south of the new A building, the 3-story building, just get them here and we'll get them to where they need to go. There'll be plenty of people out giving directions and answering questions. So question about the vaccine, is it mandatory for teachers and kids that are eligible? So you may have heard the governor's press conference last week. He has stated that school employees are mandated to get the vaccine. He's given a timeline of somewhere around October, middle of October somewhere. I can't remember the exact date, but the timeline's around the middle of October. So our district has been communicating to our staff, and so that it's not mandated for kids or for students. It is available, my understanding, for students over 12 years of age. Is that correct, June? Do you know? Yeah. So I think 12 years of age is the lower limit that students could get the vaccine, but it is not mandated at this point for students. So there's a question about how families will be notified if someone in the class tests positive. So you've probably heard of the phrase called contact tracing. That's been all over since this pandemic started. So what happens is we typically get a call from a parent or a student telling us that they have been exposed to COVID or they tested positive for COVID. Generally, we get a call, on a Monday after a weekend or, after they've been somewhere. I can tell you that from the time we started school last year until now, we've had very few cases where the student thought they were exposed on campus. 99 out of 100 cases have been they were somewhere else off campus on a weekend, an evening, or they're around a family member or something where that family member then tested positive for COVID. So what we do is the general guidelines are if you're within the 6-foot social distancing recommendation, if you're within 6 feet with or without a mask for 15 or more minutes in a 24-hour period, then you're considered a close contact. So if I were to say, as an example, if I were to say that if I was exposed to COVID and I tested positive, and then June and I had a meeting for 30 minutes, and I found out after the meeting that I had tested positive, then June would be considered a close contact if she was within 6 feet of me for 15 or more minutes of those 30 minutes. If June is considered a close contact, we would contact her and say, hey, June, we need to let you know that it's possible that you were exposed to COVID. And we would refer her to the health department for further direction. So if we get a call that a student or a staff member has been exposed to COVID or has tested positive for COVID, then we go back and say, okay, who has that person been around? So we have to do an investigation about who has that person been around, And has anybody been within 6 feet for 15 or more minutes in a 24-hour period? And so we start by calling the person who told us. So let's say a student tells us, or a parent tells us their student is tested positive. We would call that family and ask them, who have you been around? Who have you been within 6 feet of? And they would give us either names or they would say nobody. And so the names they give us, then we would contact them and let them know that they could be a close contact and that they probably need to follow up with either their doctor or a call to the county health department. So sometimes there's a lot of close contacts with the person, and sometimes there aren't any, depending on when they were exposed. So not everybody in the same room is considered a close contact. Remember, the guidelines are within 6 feet, with or without a mask, for 15 or more minutes in a 24-hour period. So anybody that meets that criteria is who we would contact to let them know. I'm just going through the questions here. And Christy, I know you had a comment about, I think your son being very shy and you're worried he won't go up to somebody. He won't have to. We will make sure that we are diligently looking for students that may not know where they're going or may have questions, and we will approach them. We won't wait for students to approach us. We'll make sure that everybody gets to where they need to go. And then with regards to there's a comment about worried about with multiple kids touching doors and knobs and those type of things. We will do regular cleaning and sanitation. Students will continue to wipe down their work area in the classroom when they come into the class and when they leave the class. So it kind of gets wiped down twice before somebody uses it. And then teachers will wipe down the doorknobs and those type of things. There are areas of high touch. Like if there's areas that are being touched quite a bit and by multiple people, they will certainly sanitize those areas between classes and during class if necessary. We're still taking those precautions. We will still have hand sanitizer available for students in the classrooms, and we will also have hand washing stations still. So the best guidance that we're getting is if people wear a mask, if people wash their hands regularly, and if people maintain a social distance of 6 feet outside of the classroom, that is the best thing that we can do to make sure we can keep our kids in school. The question regarding how are we going to monitor the 6 foot distance outside of the classroom? And that, I won't lie to you, that's a very difficult task with 1,600 students and 160 staff members or employees at school. That is a difficult task. One is we're going to be communicating with our students. We're going to be communicating with our families. It's going to take a lot of cooperation on everybody's part. We're going to be very clear with our students about what the expectations are. We're going to be very clear on why we have these expectations. And so we're dealing with young adults, and we feel that if we make it clear what the expectations are, if we make it clear why we have those expectations and why they need to be in place, then our students will make the appropriate decision. If we have to deal with students, then we will have to deal with students that are blatantly violating it. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think students want to be back in school for the most part. I think they miss their friends. I think they miss the socialization of high school. And I think that if we're really clear with each other and we work together, I think we can get through this. So I tend to look at what I want students to do and not what I don't want students to do. So my intention is to treat them like young adults and make sure they understand why we're doing what we're doing. And I think if we do that, I think they'll cooperate. I think they'll do what is right. But I understand your concerns. That I'm concerned. You know, in a week we're going to have 1,600 kids on campus. We haven't had that in a year and a half. So I perfectly understand your concerns because I have the same concerns. A question about, will there be a shortage of staff due to the mandates? I can tell you right now that we have a couple positions still open that we're interviewing for this week. It has nothing to do with the mandates. We've had these positions open for before the governor made his statement about vaccinations and mandating them for school employees. I have not heard from any of our teachers that they're considering quitting or resigning or retiring because of this mandate. Most of our staff is vaccinated, and I'm sure that the ones that aren't will consider doing what they need to do. It's best for them and their family. But I have not had anybody approach me at this point and say, I'm going to quit because I have to get a vaccine. Now, I fully recognize that some may not be communicating with me yet. I understand that. But I'm confident that the reaction I've seen from our staff since they've been back this week is they're excited for their kids to be back. And so that's again, I'm looking and treating people as I want them to be and not as I don't want them to be. But we will do whatever we have to do to make sure that we can keep this school open. Okay, so I think I know that there's probably a lot of questions still about you know, the vaccines and the you know, the variant and everything about COVID, but I want to make sure that we cover some other. I don't want to keep you all night, but I also want to make sure we cover some other things. I'm happy to stay on later after I get through the information I want to give you to answer questions if you'd like me to. I'm happy to answer them if you want to call me or email me also. But there's a question about parking. Let me talk about parking real quick. I've sent a couple of emails out regarding parking this year. So if you've been by school at all and you've driven down Shelton Springs Road, you'll notice that there's a building being constructed in what used to be the staff parking lot. That's called the Met Building. It's part of our academy, and it's basically it's basically mechatronics, which is a cross between electrical engineering and hydraulics. So it's a big part of a pathway we have in one of our academies in the tech and the STEM area. And so that building construction has basically wiped out the staff parking lot. So we're left with what I would call the front parking lot, which is the one that's out in front of the A building. And that has to be shared amongst students and staff. So we are limited in how many student parking spots we have until the Met Building is done. The Met Building is scheduled to be completed and open for the start of second trimester, which would be late November, early December. And with the completion of that building is a new staff parking lot that will also open. So once that building opens, we can move the staff to that the new staff parking lot, and we can open up the rest of the front lot for our students for second and third trimester. I did send an email out, and I'm giving the seniors about a 48-hour head start to make sure that any senior that wants a parking spot can get one. So they were able to start coming in today at 9 a.m. and the juniors will be able to come in starting Friday at 9 a.m. provided there's spots left. And again, it's limited to, and I know this is a really small number, but it's 118 spots for student parking. And that's literally using every imaginable spot we can put staff on campus and keep their cars in a safe place so they're not being damaged by dump trucks or garbage trucks or construction vehicles, or in a designated parking spot. The seniors can come in tomorrow. They were in today, a bunch of them. They can come in tomorrow, and then starting on Friday, juniors can come in. And if there's any sophomores that drive at this point, I don't think we'll have any spots available. But if next week, if we have spots available, then and there's any sophomore that drives, we can certainly look at getting them a spot. Again, I'll remind you, student schedules will be available to see on Skyward at some point during the day tomorrow, and then they will get a copy of their schedules in advisory on Wednesday morning, first thing. The one other thing I wanted to share with you is our handbook. So we have a student and family handbook that the students will be receiving on Wednesday, September 1st during their advisory, that first thing in the morning. They'll get an actual physical copy of the handbook. And in the handbook, I believe on page 36 is a sign-off sheet that the students will sign acknowledging they received it. So we need to make sure that every student has received the handbook. So when they go to advisory class, they'll be given a copy of their handbook. They'll immediately tear out page 36. They'll sign it and date it, and then they'll give it back to their advisory teacher. That lets us know that that student and every student here that day received a copy of the handbook. They'll then bring the handbook home, and on page 37 is a sign off for a parent or guardian. We need to assure that every parent or guardian has received a copy, and that and our way of knowing that is by having a sign off sheet. So when your child brings the handbook home, if you would please ask them to see it, tear out page 37, sign it, and then return it with them the next day. And we can get that taken care of right away and not have to worry about chasing people down and getting that taken care of. There are two other forms on page 38 and 39 that one of them has to do with student directory. If you do not want, there's certain information of a student that's considered directory information, name, year in school, those type of things. And if you don't want any of that released, you would need to sign that and return it to the front office. And you can either leave it with me, or you can leave it with Jolene Scott, who is our office manager. And that's an optional form. It's not required, but take a look at it. If there's any, you can actually choose which areas you don't want released. If you want some and then others are okay. The other one is a student media release, that if you do not want your student's name in the paper, their picture taken and posted on social media websites or on our school's websites, or you don't want them in the paper, then you would fill that out and you would return that to the front office also, either to myself or to Jolene Scott. But 36 and 37, we have to get back. And if we don't get 37 back, we'll probably be calling you and asking you to get it to us. So the question is, what happens if a student doesn't get a parking pass? One is, I can't tell kids where they can park off campus. One is the school district does not own the land around us. It's owned by other individuals and entities, and I can't speak on their behalf. I know that students are not allowed to park at Oakland Bay Junior High, and they're not allowed to park at the Huff and Puff Trail. The Huff and Puff Trail, that parking lot, as far as I know, is owned by the city. And obviously the school district owns the OBJ parking lot, but that's for staff that work at OBJ. So I don't know what to tell you other than the district does provide bus transportation for students that live more than a mile away from school. And again, I'll be sending information out about how to get on the bus list if you need to set up the bus for your child. 9 a.m. is when students can come down to school tomorrow if they're a senior. 9 a.m. is when Heather Smith is our new athletics and activities secretary, and she is handling parking. She's located in the 100 building, and there's actually a map or directions out in front of the A building on where to go. But it's the 100 building where Miss King used to be. But 9 o'clock for seniors tomorrow, and then 9 o'clock for juniors on Friday. Seniors can also come on Friday too, but they just know that there'll be juniors available to come in also. Yeah, there's a question about students bringing backpacks. Yes, students can use backpacks. And they can keep their things in their backpack, and that way they don't have to get a locker, or they don't have to, they can use a backpack. That's not a problem. There's a question about drop off and pickup times. I do not at this point have the times, but I will find out from transportation what times the pickup and drop off are, and I will get that out to families as soon as I can. But I will work on that tomorrow. And again, there's a question about penalizing kids for not coming to school. If your student is not feeling well, we encourage you to keep them home. We will not penalize them. Now, we have to record it as an absence. We do ask families or parents or guardians to call the school and let the attendance secretary know that their child is going to be absent. We will get it excused. There will be no penalty. They'll be allowed to make up their work. They will be able to communicate. Once we get the beauty of Canvas is once we get Canvas up and running, they will be able to easily communicate with their teachers. June, do you want to take a couple minutes and talk about Canvas?
Sure. Canvas is an online learning management system, and unlike K-12, it is totally controlled and handled by the teacher. So it is the teacher, the classroom teacher's content and the classroom teacher's lesson plan, pacing, everything. Our district standards, everything is our content. So the teachers control what goes into that program. One of the first expectations that we're going to have for teachers is that they post on there on the calendar basically the learning goal and what they're doing, a basic synopsis of what they're doing that day, and any assignments that were given, so that if a student were to be absent, they should be able to go to the calendar, look at what they're going to miss every day, each of those days in their class, and possibly, hopefully, be able to go in and get that assignment. We are going to have to take it a little bit slow because some teachers are still learning how to use the system. So we're going to start with the expectation of the calendar so that your student and you know what's going on in class every day, and then build up to them doing more content online. Now, some of our teachers are very comfortable with it right now, and they'll probably in fact, they probably worked all summer to get their content into a course, and they'll be just fine. So if a student was absent in one of those classes, they'd be able to get their work right off of Canvas. However, we are understanding that it's going to take a while, and there's a bit of a learning curve for other staff members. So right now it'll be the calendar expectation, and there is an app for students and an app for parents. So parents should be able to go in and see what their students are doing in class, and be able to check assignments and turn in things that were turned in and communicate better with the teacher. The app is really pretty good, and it's linked directly to the student account. And if you have more than one student at the high school, then you'd be able to see both of their accounts on the same app. So it makes it very convenient for parents.
Yep.
Hopefully it'll increase communication.
Great, thank you. Let me answer a couple of questions that are in there. One question, are we fully staffed for the return of 1,600 kids? We have a couple of teaching positions still open that we're interviewing for this week. We are staffed at, I would say, 95, 96, 97%. And so we are working diligently to get those last couple of positions filled. But we do have a plan. If we don't get those filled before the first, we have a plan to move forward, and we will be able to operate school without a hitch. Another question I want to make sure, and I apologize if I didn't clarify this earlier. I don't think I did a good job of clarifying it. Will we contact everyone that was within 6 feet sitting at desks around them? Yes, absolutely. So when I said that we asked the person who they've been around, that's when they're not on campus. Like we have gotten calls in the past, like last year, that somebody called us and said, my daughter or my son was exposed to COVID over the weekend. Somebody was positive. Well, they weren't at school, so we had no idea who they were around. So we had to ask who they were around. And to be honest with you, we're reliant upon them giving us accurate information. But when a student is at school and they tell us the next day that they were exposed or somebody is COVID positive around them, we know who they were around the previous day. And the previous day, any school day, we know who they're around. Yes, teachers will have seating charts that students will set in on a on everyday basis, so that if a student comes up positive, we will know who is around them. And anybody that is considered to be a close contact will be contacted. And so I apologize if I didn't make if I didn't clarify that, but absolutely, we are not going to neglect our duties with regards to that. There's also a question on, are there restrictions on what type of mask they're allowed to wear? Yes, there are. I'm going to get some direction from Mr. Heron, our district facilities manager, who's in charge of our protocols. I'm going to get clear direction from him on what masks are and are not allowed. There's been some changes, over the last year and a half. And so I will send it out to families. I know that bandanas will not be allowed. They're not considered to be an acceptable mask at school. Gaiters, another question, is sometimes they're allowed if they're doubled up. So I'm going to get clear direction on that, and I will get that out to families before the start of school. There's a question about sports. So right now, the protocol right now is that students and adults do not have to wear masks outside. So the WIA is moving forward with athletics. Many of our teams are in practice right now and are preparing for the season. And if they're an outside sport, they don't have to wear masks. If they're an inside sport, that they do when they're not in the actual mode of competing. So, if like for instance, girls volleyball, if they're actually on the court playing, they don't have to wear a mask. But as soon as they come out of the game and go to the bench area, they have to wear a mask. And everybody else in the building has to wear a mask unless they're actually competing and they're in the action of playing volleyball or whatever the sport there is. But outside sports do not have to wear a mask. That's the current protocol. If that changes, we will follow it and we will make sure that everybody is aware of that. But that's what the situation is right now. I answered the one about the teachers will have assigned. Students can carry their own hand sanitizer if you'd like them to, not a problem. I'm just looking at there's a question about nurses resigning. So the district has hired 3 new nurses this year, I believe. And so I don't know I only know about the nurse at Shelton High School. And I know that she resigned last year. And I don't know, the reasons were personal. She didn't share them. So I don't, if the insinuation is that there's this mass exodus because of COVID, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't have any idea. I do know that we were able to replace them. And so we are moving forward. We will have a nurse, and we'll also have what we call a med tech, which is kind of a nurse's assistant. There's a question about Canvas or a Skyward. Let me read it real quick and I'll have June answer Skyward question. So I have kids in 2 different districts, and that means 2 different Skyward accounts. Who would I get a hold of to join them together? 2 different districts or 2 different schools, Nicole? If you could put that in the chat. If it's 2 different districts, I'm not sure we can do anything about that. If it's 2 different schools, we might be able to.
I agree. If it's 2 different districts, they're like considered 2 different entities, and the login, the actual address to get into Skyward is different. So I'm not sure that you can do that, but I did make a note to check on that for you, just to see if it's possible. If it's 2 different schools, then I'm certain we can consolidate that, and that shouldn't be a problem. I have been looking ahead at some of the questions regarding Canvas, and if you want, I can answer those right now.
Go ahead.
Okay. So somebody asked about the app, when you guys can get the app. Anyone can download the app right now. Students can download the app onto their devices. Parents can download the parent app on their devices. Just go to your respective app stores. However, before a parent.
Oh, I think you froze up, June.
Log in, the student needs. So what we're going to do is the first week of school, we're focusing on getting all of the students into Canvas and getting them experienced with it and teaching them how to use it. And then by the second week of school, to make sure that we send out the information to our parents and maybe hold some sort of, we may have to do it over Zoom, information night of how to actually use the app or use the program on a computer. And as far as Skyward goes, it does integrate with Skyward. So teachers can use the gradebook on Canvas, and it will dump the grades basically into Skyward. Also, it works the other way as far as like when class lists are updated or semesters change, it automatically uploads into Canvas from Skyward. So hopefully that answered most of the questions. If we do manage to get the students trained sooner than we expect, then we'll push the parents up and get them in as soon as possible. But our goal is as soon as we can, but we kind of have to go teachers first, and then students, and then parents.
Thanks, June. Kelly, I just put a comment in the chat box. If you will email me, I will put you in contact with the correct person with regards to medical arrangements. And I see that Jen Johnson, our receptionist, put in Jessica Huckabee. You can certainly email Jessica. Her email is there, or you can email me and I will put you in contact with Jessica and have her give you a call. However you want to handle it, we will certainly help you get that done. Okay, so I think June, I think did you see one of the students is in Pioneer and the other one is here? Can those be integrated together or no?
I doubt it.
Okay.
I'm like 98% sure no, but I still wrote it down so I can check.
Okay, great, thank you. If you put a question in the chat box and I didn't answer it, if you would please put it back in the chat box. I'm down at the bottom of the chat now, and I can answer anything. If I didn't get to it, I can answer it again, or I can answer it for the first time if you re-put it in the chat box. But I just want to thank everybody for being respectful. And I know that this is a very charged topic with regards to coming back to school and masks or no masks, or like, what do we do and why are we doing this and why are we doing that? Like, I just ask everybody, let's respect everybody. Let's respect everybody's right to have their feelings and opinions about this, whether we agree or disagree. I will tell you that my only concern, and I don't mean this in any way to be disrespectful, but my only concern is to make sure that our students have every opportunity to get the best education they can, because eventually they're going to be leaving high school and they're going to be our neighbors. So they're going to be out in the world, and I want to make sure they're prepared for it. And we can fight about this all we want. It's not going to solve anything. So everything that I do and everything I ask our staff to do will be with the focus that we're going to do what's best for our kids. And so I just ask that we be patient with each other. If I send something out or I say something and you don't understand, you don't agree, call me. We can have a conversation even if we disagree. So I want to hear feedback from our parents. I want to hear what you think we can do to do it better. But we just have to make sure that we're treating everybody respectfully and that we're respecting everybody's right to have their feelings, have their opinions, to express them and to listen. So there's a question about lunches. Lunches are free again this year. And so they will be similar to what they've been, grab and go. So any student that wants a lunch can get one free of charge. We will be having 3 lunches. If you look at the bell schedules on the website, we'll be having 3 lunches. So we're trying to keep the numbers down as low as we can, and not putting 1,000 kids in lunch at the same time. So lunches will be free. You do not need to put any money on your kids' accounts for lunches. There's a question asking, is there going to be a running dashboard showing the number of COVID? Not to my knowledge. I've not been in any discussions with district administration or anybody else that has talked about having a dashboard listing how many COVID cases. I just, one is I don't know if we would ever know that, because, you know, some students might just choose to stay home and we don't know about it. There's a question about sharing books and working out of workbooks. So we will not be sharing like consumables, but we will not be sharing textbooks. We could be sharing some supplies like in a science lab or those type of things, but they will be cleaned and sanitized between uses. Actually, I see a question about, are they good lunches? That last year they were better than what I think I had in school. So they actually were. They had a variety of things, eat like something different most days, and they actually were not bad. I mean, so I think they're more than bologna sandwiches. I know that. Jane, let me find out about, like, the question is, will there be wheat and dairy-free lunches? Let me get specific information about lunches and meals, and I will get that out to families. I can go talk to our nutrition director tomorrow, and I will get information on that. Let me make a note so I don't forget, and I will check that out tomorrow and send out information. All right, any other questions that that people have. Hey, Bill, if you could ask one more time if we have any families that have questions they'd like to ask in Spanish, we'll be happy to have you answer those.
Si hay algunos de ustedes que quieren preguntar algo en español, solamente tiene que poner tu pregunta en el chat y entonces estamos aquí para pues contestar. ¿Ok? Por favor, si tienes una pregunta, déjanos saber.
Thank you, Bill. So everybody is eligible for free lunches this year. You don't have to qualify for free or reduced lunch this year. And they get milk or some type of drink with their lunch. At least that's what I saw them getting last year. So again, I will make sure I ask our nutrition director and make sure I have information on that when I send it out. There's a question about recess. I need a recess sometimes. Unfortunately, in high school, we don't get a recess. We have a 5-minute break between classes that kids travel from one class to the next. Their activity comes in the form of whether they have a PE class or some type of weight training class or activity class. But we don't have a break built into the day for students to relax or do that. So the question is there a contingency plan if school closed down again? I will tell you this, I am, and I know our superintendent is, and I know all of our staff is committed to keeping our school open. That is what we're doing. We are going to do whatever we have to do to keep the school open. If for some reason something out of our control causes schools to shut down, that is one of the reasons we're putting Canvas in place, is that it could be an easy transition to Canvas. But I'm telling you that we are committed to keeping our schools open. Like we will do anything and go to any length to keep our school open. So, but we will be prepared should something happen. This is a good question, Stacy. Thank you for asking this question about hands-on classes. They will not be book only. I can tell you, I just met with the welding teachers. We have 2 welding teachers now. Our program is growing. We hired another full-time welding teacher. And I can tell you that they are super excited to get kids back in class and get them welding. And so our classes will be run just like they would be run prior to the pandemic. We will take the necessary precautions to make sure that we do it in a safe and healthy manner. But kids will be welding, construction classes will be going on, our engineering classes will be going on. We will be conducting business and kids will get hands-on experience. So thank you for asking that question. Capri Suns for all, that brings back memories. I remember the smoking area too. Thanks, Aspen, for that memory. When I was in high school, we had a smoking area for students. That was Eastern Washington, though. We won't talk about that. Okay, so again, I did my best to answer all your questions. If I didn't answer something or you didn't want to ask something in front of the group in the chat, please email me or call me. I'm happy to talk to you. Again, before we close up here, I appreciate your time. It's an hour and 10 minutes on, I know what is very busy for everybody, and I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your opinions, and we can all agree that if something comes up, let's talk about it. Let's have a discussion and let's work through it. And again, I will reiterate before I close that my #1 priority is your kids and making sure that your kids get the very best experience here at Shelton High School that we can give them, and that we're helping to prepare them for college and career. And I'm willing to do whatever we have to do to make sure our kids can come to school in person 5 days a week. And so, but I can't do it alone, and our staff can't do it alone. We need your help. We need you to work with us. So thank you very much. Again, look for your email. I'll be sending you information out over the next few days regarding school. If I don't send something out you need, please email me. And I always wish you the best. And I thank you for welcoming me to the Shelton community. And have a great night, and we will talk to you later.